Hi, I'm Tao.
I'm John.
And today we are at Maya Creek and we're working on a base coat for an earthen floor. And we're mixing it up with a cement mixer, and we have it set up so that we have these are I think they're actually 2-gallon buckets that you get for free from just bakeries or other places. And we have the materials lined up, so we add the buckets basically in this order to the mixer. And we have the mixer set up here just with a generator. It's a 3.5 cubic foot mixer. Okay, first John's going to add just water. It's just some brown water. We've been washing our hands after each batch in the same water. You want to put most of the water in first because it gets harder to incorporate it later on. But you want to make sure with the water that you don't put too much in. And the amount of water is going to vary depending on how dry your materials are. Okay, so this is a 1 inch minus gravel from a quarry, and that's what we're adding that first, a full bucket of that. We add the gravel first, and then we start it up. We add the gravel first though with just the water, and it acts as an abrasive. A lot of times the last batch will get stuck to the inside walls, and this gravel helps to knock it out. Alright, so John's going to crank up the generator. It's going to get loud. And you can adjust the mix by lowering this handle over here, and it turns the barrel down. And it'll start splashing it more as you turn it. It makes it harder. You want to be careful it'll splash out on you too. Okay, so now John's going to add, this is clay that we sifted through an 1/8 of an inch hardware cloth. You have to put it through a 1/4 of an inch first. And when you add that, you want to add it slowly. If you add it all at one time, it'll clump up in the water, and you want to keep it all mixing well. The clay is the material that absorbs the most water when you add it, and it affects the amount of water you're going to have to add a lot. So you can see it's starting to get kind of to a cakey consistency. Okay, next we add, this is straw, not hay. The difference is straw does not have seeds in it, or mini seeds. You add that kind of in clumps. You want to make sure that you don't end up with a big wad of straw in the middle. But it's not that big of a deal if you do. Because the next thing we add is gravel again. And the gravel will bash the straw into the mix to incorporate it better. So this is another full bucket of the 1 inch minus gravel. Okay. Next we add just a 1/2 bucket of clay. And last we add a full bucket of sand. Now the consistency that you're looking for, you want to let it go for a while, but see, you want to end up so there's about 4 or 5 bigger clumps mashing around, but right now there's just a bunch of little ones, which means we need to add a little bit of water, but not very much. It's really easy to add too much water at this stage. And adding too much water means you have to add more of the materials and try to get generally the right ratio. It's just better to have too little water than too much. And you can adjust the handle to when it gets drier like that, you can lower it more and it'll start flopping over more. And you let it go for a little bit at the end. It takes a little while for the clay to get soft and sticky. That's one thing that we've learned, is just to give it a little bit longer than you think you would normally. And it'll be stickier and easier to spread. Alright, I can tell that's the right consistency. Anyway. And when you stop it, a lot of times you try to get it so that it's easier to dump out. But this is the right consistency. It's just kind of squishy but sticks together. If you know what cob is, it's basically cob but with just with gravel in it. Okay, so one of the more labor-intensive parts of this is actually getting the material out. You kind of have to pull it out. You can dump it out a little bit more sometimes, but it gets on this middle bar, so really just dragging it out. You can use a spade if you want, some kind of trowel. It's easiest to use your hands, at least in our opinion. It will kind of make your ends of your fingertips a little raw, and the clay can make your hands dry out. The workflow that me and John have, we have basically he's mixing and filling the buckets, and then I take the buckets inside and start spreading them while he starts mixing the next batch. It doesn't take as long to spread it as it does to mix it, so after I get done spreading, I come out and help fill these buckets back up with the materials, and then he's ready to go again. And that seems to work really well for having 2 people to do it. I don't know if having 3 people would really help that much, but it definitely helps to have at least 2 people. Okay, so to apply the mix, we've already leveled out this gravel floor. There's about a couple inches of gravel. You can have up to 6 inches or so. I mean, I don't think there's really a limit. You level out the gravel, and then the base coat's about 3.5 inches thick. I mean, you just use a 2x4 to create little lanes to fit it in, and then you drag a 2x4 across it. It's called screeding, and you're just flattening it out. And the trickiest part about this is getting the 2x4s level both this way and with the with the other rows. It's really not that difficult. A lot of times you have to move the gravel around a little bit, but it's a big deal. So you just dump out the mix, and you smear it around by hand, fit it into the last batch. You want to do most of the leveling with your hands. Using the 2x4 to level is kind of difficult unless the batch is really wet, which you want to try to avoid so that this will all dry out a lot faster. Okay, so there it's roughly flat. Use my scree board. Just drag it on the top. You want to kind of massage it in. It's actually hard to move a lot of material. Like if you have too much over on this side, you kind of need to move it back and forth. Otherwise, you kind of drag it and you'll create kind of like a break in it. So just massage it in. That. Fill in any little gaps you might have. And you're ready for the next batch. Some people, the books I read said to use two 2x4s. I find that the last row is stable enough to drag the screen along and not mess it up. And so you just do that a lot of times, and you'll have an earthen floor. We open up the doors and windows when we're done, blast the fan through here. It'll still try to take 3 weeks to dry, maybe more. And then after that, we'll be putting on the second coat, which is, we use the 2x4s flat, so it's a lot thinner coat. And that's Earthen Floors base coat from My Creek.